Northstar. The word left Samuel Whitaker's mouth quietly, but 40 feet away, Commander James Walker stopped, as if the entire courtyard had changed beneath his feet. A moment earlier, two young sailors had been smiling. Tyler Grant had been holding a tablet between himself and the 78-year-old veteran, like it contained the final answer to every question. Now Walker was staring directly at the old man. Sam stood beside a communications display prepared for Family Heritage Day, wearing a faded navy work jacket over a gray flannel shirt. A small metal box rested beneath his arm. The afternoon wind moved through the coastal base, snapping flags above the courtyard and carrying the distant hum of equipment from an open hangar. Tyler glanced at his screen again. Northstar, one sailor repeated with a grin. That was really your call sign? Sam looked toward the old field radio displayed behind them. That is what they called me. The second sailor gave a short laugh. Sounds dramatic. Sam did not react. He had spent too many years without that name to care what strangers thought of it. Tyler remained skeptical for a different reason. 10 minutes earlier, Sam had walked up to the communications exhibit, studied the radio for several seconds, and pointed toward its frequency plate. That plate does not belong to that set, he had said. Tyler checked the official catalog. Model number correct. Display classification correct. Archive verification complete. According to our records, it does, Tyler replied. Sam had looked at the radio again. Then your records inherited somebody else's mistake. That was when the question started. Had Sam worked communications? Sometimes. What unit? No useful answer. What rank? Long time ago. Each reply sounded less verifiable than the last. Tyler did not dislike veterans. He respected service deeply. But respect did not mean accepting every memory as fact, especially during an official heritage event. Sir, Tyler said, we cannot change a verified display because somebody remembers it differently. Sam's gray eyes remained on the radio. I did not ask you to trust my memory. I asked you to look at the plate. One sailor leaned toward his teammate. Maybe he built the thing. Sam heard him. No. The people who built it were smarter than me. The sailors laughed again. Tyler almost smiled, then noticed movement beyond Sam's shoulder. Commander Walker had not resumed walking. The officer beside him had taken several steps before realizing he was alone. Walker's expression was no longer casual. Senior personnel rarely froze over random conversations, and Tyler suddenly felt the first crack in his certainty. Then Master Chief Owen Parker noticed the commander too. Parker followed Walker's line of sight, crossed the courtyard, and stopped beside Tyler. His attention settled on Sam. Sir, Parker said carefully, where did you hear that call sign? Sam shifted the metal box beneath his arm. The sailors waited for another vague answer. Instead, Sam looked directly at Parker. I did not hear it. The wind pulled at his jacket. They gave it to me. Behind them, Commander Walker began walking forward. 3 hours earlier, Samuel Whitaker had been standing on the back porch of his small coastal home, scattering birdseed across a wooden feeder while morning lights spread over the yard. At 78, Sam had learned to appreciate routines that asked nothing from him. Coffee before sunrise. The newspaper at the kitchen table. 10 minutes outside listening to gulls argue over rooftops. A radio playing softly while he worked on whatever needed fixing. Nobody passing his house would have guessed that a name once spoken through military radios had followed him for decades. Sam preferred it that way. Inside, his home carried almost no evidence of his service. There were family photographs, books, an old clock that ran 3 minutes slow, and a collection of tools arranged inside a cabinet near the garage. No medals hung beneath glass. No framed commendations occupied the walls. The past had its place, and Sam had never believed that place needed to be everywhere. He finished his coffee and folded the newspaper. On the kitchen counter rested an invitation to Family Heritage Day at the naval facility 20 miles away. He had nearly thrown it out when it arrived. Then he noticed a photograph printed near the bottom. An old communications display would be included in the event. That image had brought back a promise he had avoided thinking about for years. Sam walked down the hallway and stopped before a narrow cabinet. He opened the door. Behind a stack of blankets sat a gray metal box, its corners worn smooth and its surface marked by age. He carried it to the kitchen table and remained standing for several seconds before opening it. The hinges gave a faint metallic sound. Inside rested a small photograph, an old radio earpiece, and a frequency card protected by a cloudy plastic sleeve. Sam lifted the card. Numbers and handwritten notes covered its surface. In one corner, someone had drawn a tiny star in pencil. His thumb hovered above it, but did not touch. Not yet. Beneath the card lay the photograph. Several young men stood beside communications equipment, smiling toward a camera. William Mercer was among them. Sam studied the faces one at a time. 3 of those men had nearly disappeared from the official history of that period. Their names existed in scattered records, but not where Sam believed they belonged. Years earlier, Mercer had told him that institutions remembered equipment more reliably than people. Sam had laughed then. He understood the sentence better now. He returned the photograph to the box and closed the lid. This trip was not about himself. He had no interest in explaining old assignments to strangers or convincing younger sailors that his memories mattered. He wanted someone responsible for the heritage display to see the photograph, compare the names, and correct what time had left incomplete. Sam changed into a gray flannel shirt, khaki pants, and his faded navy work jacket. Before leaving, he paused beside the metal box. For a moment, he considered putting it back inside the cabinet. Life would remain simpler if he did. Then he remembered the 3 missing names. Sam picked up the box, locked his front door, and placed it carefully on the passenger seat of his pickup. 20 miles away, Tyler Grant was preparing a display built from official records. Neither man knew that before the afternoon ended, one old radio would force both of them to reconsider what history actually remembers. By 10 that morning, Tyler Grant had checked the visitor list twice, corrected 4 display cards, and moved 1 row of folding chairs 3 inches to the left. To anyone else, the adjustment was invisible. To Tyler, it mattered. Family Heritage Day was supposed to connect active duty personnel with the generations that had come before them, and Tyler believed respect began with getting the details right. At 30, he had earned a reputation for being dependable because he trusted preparation more than improvisation. Names were verified. Equipment was cataloged. Visitors wore badges. Historical displays matched archived records. There was comfort in systems that could be checked. The coastal facility moved steadily around him as preparations continued. Wind rolled across the open courtyard and tugged at banners secured between low buildings. Sailors carried tables from a storage area. Volunteers arranged photographs by decade. From the nearby hangar came the metallic clatter of equipment being positioned for visitors. Tyler walked toward the communications section with his tablet in hand. 2 younger sailors followed him carrying placards. Radio display? Tyler asked. Ready. Catalog numbers? Matched last night. Tyler stopped before an old field radio resting beneath a clear protective cover. The machine looked primitive beside modern communications equipment, but Tyler respected what it represented. He opened the digital catalog and compared the model number, frequency plate, and historical description. Everything matched the archive. Good, he said. One sailor smiled. You think anybody is actually going to check that closely? Tyler looked at him. Somebody always checks. The sailor immediately straightened the placard. Master Chief Owen Parker happened to be passing behind them and heard the exchange. Grant. Tyler turned. Master Chief. Parker glanced at the display. You trust that tablet more than your own mother. Tyler smiled slightly. My mother changes her stories. The database does not. Parker gave him a long look. Databases change whenever somebody discovers the first person typed something wrong. Tyler lifted the tablet. That is why we verify. Against what? The archive. Parker nodded toward the old photographs lining the courtyard. And who built the archive? Tyler understood the point, but remained unconvinced. People who documented what happened. Parker almost smiled. Sometimes, records tell you what somebody managed to preserve. Do not confuse that with everything that happened. Tyler had heard versions of the lesson before. He respected Parker enough not to argue, but his instincts remained unchanged. Memory was valuable. Evidence was better. Shortly after noon, Commander James Walker inspected the preparations. Tyler reported that the displays were ready and all scheduled guests had been confirmed. Walker nodded. Good work. 2 words were enough. Tyler watched the commander continue toward the hangar and felt the quiet satisfaction of a job done correctly. Then, nearly an hour later, an older pickup entered the visitor lot. A white-haired man stepped out wearing khaki pants, a gray flannel shirt, and a faded navy work jacket. He carried a small gray metal box under one arm. Tyler glanced at the visitor list. Samuel Whitaker was there, but nothing beside the name suggested importance. No special designation. No ceremonial role. No escort required. Sam walked past several displays without slowing. Then he reached the old field radio. He stopped. His eyes moved across the equipment, settled on the frequency plate, and narrowed slightly. Tyler was still 20 feet away when he heard the old man speak to a nearby volunteer. That plate does not belong to that radio. Tyler looked down at the verified catalog on his screen. Then he started walking toward him. Tyler Grant stopped beside the communications display and looked first at Samuel Whitaker, then at the field radio beneath the clear cover. What exactly is wrong with it? Sam shifted the gray metal box beneath his arm and pointed through the cover. The frequency plate. Tyler opened the equipment record on his tablet. The catalog lists that plate with this model. I can see that. And the serial range matches. Sam leaned slightly closer to the display. The radio is right. The plate is not. One of the younger sailors approached from behind Tyler. How can you tell? Sam pointed toward a small marking near the lower edge. That version came later. Tyler enlarged the archival photograph attached to the catalog. This image shows the same configuration. Sam studied the screen for only a moment. That photograph was taken after the modification. Tyler looked at him. You know that from the photograph? I know it because I used one before the modification existed. The younger sailor exchanged an amused glance with his teammate. Tyler noticed, but said nothing. He searched Samuel Whitaker in the visitor database. Name confirmed. Age confirmed. Veteran status confirmed. Nothing connected him to the communications equipment in front of them. Were you a communications specialist? Tyler asked. Sam considered the question. Sometimes. Jobs were less tidy than titles. Tyler tried another approach. What unit were you with? Sam's gaze remained on the radio. More than one. The younger sailor smiled. That narrows it down. Sam ignored him. Tyler felt the conversation slipping away from facts. What rank did you hold? Long time ago. Sir, I am trying to understand why you believe this display is incorrect. Sam finally turned toward him. You asked questions about me. The mistake is sitting 6 feet from you. Tyler held up the tablet. And every record available to me says it is correct. Then every record available to you copied the same mistake. The second sailor gave a quiet laugh. That is convenient. Sam looked at him without irritation. Mistakes usually are. That is why they survive. Tyler exhaled slowly. He respected older veterans, but Family Heritage Day would bring hundreds of visitors through the courtyard. He could not alter an official exhibit because one guest disagreed with a catalog entry. Mr. Whitaker, memory can change over 50 years. Sam nodded. It can. Tyler waited, expecting resistance. Instead, Sam pointed again toward the plate. Metal changes less. That silenced Tyler for a second. Sam continued. Look at the mounting holes. The plate was fitted after the original face was drilled. Somebody restored the radio, using a later replacement. Tyler stepped closer. For the first time, he looked at the equipment instead of the database. The alignment was slightly off. Barely noticeable, but there. One sailor leaned toward the glass. He might actually have something. Tyler was not ready to concede. Even if the plate was replaced, that does not tell me how you know what belonged there originally. Sam's expression remained calm. I remember. The younger sailor folded his arms. You must have spent a lot of time around these things. Enough. Doing what? Sam said nothing. The sailor grinned. Come on, sir. You have corrected the archive, the restoration team, and Grant's tablet in 5 minutes. You must have had some legendary assignment. Tyler glanced at Sam. Did your team have a call sign for you? Sam's fingers settled against the metal box. The humor disappeared from his face. Yes. Tyler waited. What was it? The wind moved sharply across the courtyard. Sam looked at the old radio as though he were seeing another room in another decade. Then he answered. Northstar. The word seemed too simple to carry any weight. One of the younger sailors smiled first. Northstar, he repeated. That sounds like something somebody gives himself after watching too many old movies. His teammate laughed under his breath. Sam Whitaker did not. He kept his eyes on the field radio, his fingers resting against the worn metal box beneath his arm. Tyler Grant watched him carefully. Who gave you that name? Sam answered without looking up. Men who needed it. The first sailor exchanged another amused glance with his teammate. That clears everything up. Tyler raised a hand, quieting him. Something about Sam's refusal to defend himself had begun to bother Tyler more than the claim itself. Most people challenged about their past immediately reached for proof. Sam seemed almost determined not to. Mr. Whitaker, if you worked with this equipment, there should be something in the archive. Probably. Then why can I not find it? Sam finally looked at him. Because you are searching for the wrong thing. Tyler frowned. What should I search for? Sam's expression remained unreadable. Not me. Before Tyler could respond, Master Chief Owen Parker approached from the courtyard. He had noticed Commander James Walker standing 40 feet away, completely still, his attention fixed on the communications display. Parker had served under Walker long enough to know the difference between curiosity and recognition. This was recognition. Parker stopped beside Tyler. What is going on? Tyler gestured toward Sam. Mr. Whitaker says the frequency played on this radio is from a later configuration. Parker examined the equipment. And Tyler hesitated. He also says his old call sign was Northstar. Parker's eyes moved immediately to Sam. The change was small, but Tyler saw it. Sir, Parker said, where did you hear that name? Sam adjusted the metal box beneath his arm. I did not hear it. Parker waited. They gave it to me. The younger sailors stopped smiling. Parker studied Sam for several seconds. Who is they? Sam looked past him toward the open hangar. Commander Walker had started walking toward them. People you probably will not find together in one file. Parker followed Sam's gaze and saw the commander approaching. His posture straightened. Tyler felt his certainty beginning to loosen. Master Chief, do you know that call sign? Parker kept his voice low. I know I have heard it before. Where? Years ago. From someone who did not tell stories casually. Sam's eyes narrowed slightly. Who? Parker turned back to him. Admiral William Mercer. For the first time since arriving, Sam's calm expression visibly shifted. It lasted less than a second, but Tyler caught it. Recognition. Memory. Maybe loss. Sam looked down at the metal box. William always talked more than he should have. Parker stared at him. You knew Admiral Mercer? Sam gave a faint smile. Before people called him Admiral. The wind pushed through the courtyard, rattling the edge of the display placard. Nobody laughed now. Commander Walker was less than 20 feet away. Parker looked toward the metal box. What is in there? Sam rested one hand on its lid. Something I came here to return to the record. Tyler glanced at the radio, then at his tablet, then back at the old veteran he had treated like an unreliable visitor. Walker's footsteps grew closer across the concrete. Sam placed the metal box carefully on the display table. His fingers found the latch. Since everyone is suddenly interested, he said quietly, you might as well see why I came. The latch opened with a dry metallic click. Sam Whitaker lifted the lid slowly, revealing a faded photograph, an old radio earpiece, and a frequency card protected inside a cloudy plastic sleeve. Tyler Grant stared at the contents. Nothing looked ceremonial. There were no medals, polished insignia, or official certificates. Just objects that seemed too ordinary to explain why Commander James Walker was crossing the courtyard toward them. Master Chief Owen Parker leaned slightly closer. That is what you came to return. Sam reached into the box. Part of it. He lifted the frequency card carefully. Numbers covered the paper in faded ink, along with handwritten corrections Tyler could barely make out. In one corner was a tiny star drawn in pencil. Sam's thumb touched it. The sounds around him seemed to fall away. The wind became distant. The voices near the hangar faded beneath another sound remembered from decades earlier, the low static of a radio filling a cramped communication space. Sam had been young then, surrounded by equipment that demanded patience more than strength. Plans changed. Frequencies shifted. Information arrived late or incomplete. When uncertainty spread through the team, Sam remained at the radio, sorting one voice from another and keeping the scattered pieces connected. William Mercer had watched him work through one particularly difficult night, then leaned against the table with an exhausted smile. You know what your problem is, Whitaker? Sam had not looked up. You are about to tell me. Everybody else starts moving when things get confusing. You stay exactly where people can find you. Mercer picked up the frequency card and drew a small star in its corner. Northstar. Sam had shaken his head. That is terrible. Does not matter. It fits. The name survived because the men kept using it. Not as praise. Not as legend. It became shorthand for something simpler. When plans changed, Sam stayed calm. When information became tangled, his voice remained steady. When someone needed a reliable point of reference, they looked toward him. Years later, People would remember the name more dramatically than Sam ever had. To him, it meant responsibility. Nothing more. The present returned with the sharp pull of coastal wind against his jacket. Sam realized his thumb was still resting on the penciled star. Tyler was watching him. "Who drew that?" he asked. "William Mercer." Parker's expression tightened with recognition. "Admiral Mercer?" Sam slipped the card partly from its sleeve. He was nowhere near an admiral when he ruined a perfectly good frequency card with that pencil. Parker almost smiled, but Commander Walker arrived before he could respond. The younger sailors immediately straightened. Tyler lowered his tablet. Walker stopped directly across from Sam. His eyes moved first to the frequency card, then to the tiny star. He said nothing for several seconds. Sam studied him in return. There was something familiar in the commander's expression, not in his face, but in the way he waited before speaking. Mercer had done that whenever a question mattered. Walker finally looked at Sam. "William Mercer gave you that call sign?" He started it. Walker drew a slow breath. "Admiral Mercer was my first mentor." Sam nodded once. "Then he probably gave you too much advice." "He gave me one piece I never understood." Walker's voice grew quieter. "He said if I ever met Northstar, I should not ask what he did." Sam's fingers stopped against the card. Tyler looked between the two men. Walker continued. "He told me to ask one question instead." Sam already knew what was coming. For the first time that afternoon, the old veteran looked uncertain whether he wanted to hear it. Walker held his gaze. "Who made it home?" Sam Whitaker did not answer immediately. The question reached farther into the past than any call sign ever could. His eyes lowered to the frequency card in his hand, to the small pencil star William Mercer had drawn when both men were young enough to believe there would always be time for another conversation. Around them, the coastal facility continued moving, but the small circle beside the radio display had gone completely quiet. Commander James Walker waited. Tyler Grant watched Sam differently now. He no longer saw an elderly visitor challenging an archive. He saw a man deciding how much of a memory belonged to the people standing before him. Sam finally looked at Walker. More than we expected. Walker's expression changed. Mercer had repeated that strange instruction to him years earlier without explanation. Ask who made it home. Now the answer sounded less like a statistic and more like something carried for decades. "That was all he told me to ask," Walker said. Then William finally learned when to stop talking. Parker lowered his head with a faint smile. Walker almost did the same. Tyler remained serious. "Sir, was that what Northstar meant?" Sam considered him. "Not exactly." He placed the frequency card on the table. "William gave me the name because he thought I stayed steady when everything around us changed. He made it sound more impressive than it was." "Admiral Mercer did not describe it that way," Walker said. Sam looked at him. Of course he did not. Walker stepped closer to the display. "He told me there was one voice people listened for when plans stopped making sense. He said that voice never promised things would be easy. It only made sure nobody felt forgotten." Sam's gaze drifted toward the radio. "That sounds more like William remembering the story than living it." "Maybe." Walker paused. "But he remembered you." The words settled heavily. Sam closed his eyes for a moment, then returned the frequency card to its sleeve. Tyler glanced at the open metal box. "You said you came here to return something to the record." Sam nodded. "I did." He lifted the faded photograph from inside. Walker moved beside him. The image showed several young men standing near communications equipment, their uniforms and surroundings belonging to another era. William Mercer was easy to identify once Sam pointed him out. "There," Sam said. Walker studied the young face of his former mentor. "I have never seen this photograph. Most people have not." Sam turned it over. Handwritten names covered the back in faded ink. Tyler leaned closer. Sam tapped 3 of them with one finger. Daniel Foster, Michael Reeves, Thomas Bennett. Tyler searched the names on his tablet. His expression tightened. "They are in the archive, but not attached to this communications group." "That is the problem." Walker looked at Sam. "You came here because of them?" Heritage Day seemed like a good time to put people back where they belonged. Tyler stared at the photograph, then at Sam. "And your name?" Sam gave him a quiet look. "My name is already where it needs to be." "Where?" Sam tapped his chest once. "Here." Walker understood before Tyler did. Sam had allowed them to laugh at his call sign, question his memory, and search for his credentials without once mentioning the real purpose of his visit. He had not come to restore his own place in history. He had come to restore 3 others. Walker looked toward the rows of carefully prepared displays. Grant. Tyler straightened. Yes, sir. Walker pointed to the photograph in Sam's hand. We are changing the exhibit. Tyler looked at Sam, then shut off his tablet. Yes, sir. This time, there was no hesitation. Tyler Grant moved first. He carried the faded photograph to a nearby work table and opened the historical archive on his tablet, but this time he did not treat the first search result as the end of the question. Master Chief Owen Parker joined him while Commander James Walker remained beside Sam Whitaker. The two younger sailors stood several feet away, their earlier amusement replaced by uncomfortable silence. Tyler entered Daniel Foster's name. Several records appeared, scattered across different categories. He opened each one. Then Michael Reeves. Then Thomas Bennett. The pieces existed, but nobody had connected them to the communications group shown in Sam's photograph. They were there, Tyler said quietly. The records just never put them together. Sam nodded. That happens more often than people think. Tyler looked toward the old field radio. And the frequency plate? Later replacement. Tyler enlarged a restoration record buried beneath the main catalog entry. A maintenance note appeared near the bottom. Replacement frequency plate installed during restoration. Tyler stared at the sentence. Sam had identified in seconds what the database had hidden beneath layers of information. You were right about that too. Sam gave a small shrug. I spent enough time looking at those radios. Tyler turned toward him. I treated your memory like a problem because it did not match my screen. Your screen was useful. It was incomplete. Most things are. Commander Walker glanced at Sam. Including stories about Northstar, apparently. Sam almost smiled. Especially those. Tyler looked down at the photograph again. Mr. Whitaker, I owe you an apology. Sam said nothing. Tyler continued. Not because Commander Walker recognized your call sign. I should have listened before that. Sam studied him for a moment. That is the important part. One of the younger sailors stepped forward. Sir, I laughed at you. Sam looked at him. Yes, you did. The sailor swallowed. I am sorry. Then remember how easy it was. The young man nodded. There was no humiliation in Sam's voice, only instruction. Tyler returned to the display file. He created a corrected entry, attaching the photograph and the 3 missing names. Parker contacted the heritage staff to prepare a new placard. Within minutes, the old exhibit began changing. Not dramatically. No ceremony stopped. No announcement echoed across the facility. 3 names simply moved from scattered records into the place where they had always belonged. Walker watched the update appear on Tyler's screen. Add Whitaker. Tyler looked at Sam. Sam shook his head immediately. No. Walker raised an eyebrow. You are standing in the photograph's history, whether you like it or not. Those 3 are why I came. That does not mean yours should be missing. Sam closed the metal box and rested both hands on its lid. James, I know where I was. Walker heard the firmness in his voice and did not press further. Tyler looked at the new placard layout. 3 names appeared beneath the photograph, followed by an empty line where another could easily fit. He understood what Sam was choosing. The man whose call sign had stopped at Commander Cold wanted no space reserved for himself. Tyler slowly deleted the empty line. Outside the hangar, families had begun arriving for the event. Children moved between displays while veterans from different generations greeted one another beneath snapping flags. Sam watched them for a moment, then picked up his metal box. Looks like you have work to do. Tyler stood. Sir, before you go, there is something I want to ask. Sam turned. Tyler glanced at the corrected display. If the archive forgot those men once, how do we make sure it does not happen again? Sam looked toward the 3 newly restored names. You already learned how. Tyler waited. Sam tapped the dark screen of Tyler's tablet gently with one finger. Never let the record become more important than the people who lived it. Sam Whitaker let his hand fall from Tyler Grant's tablet and looked once more at the corrected display. Daniel Foster. Michael Reeves. Thomas Bennett. 3 names that had existed separately in old files now stood together beneath the photograph where they belonged. Families were beginning to fill the courtyard, and the atmosphere had changed from preparation to remembrance. Children pointed at old equipment. Veterans paused before photographs from eras they recognized. Younger sailors answered questions beside displays that suddenly felt less like museum pieces and more like unfinished conversations. Sam picked up the gray metal box. I should get out of your way. Commander James Walker stepped beside him. You are not in anyone's way. Sam glanced toward the arriving visitors. You have an event to run. Walker looked at the box. And you have spent decades carrying part of its history. Sam gave him a tired smile. History gets heavy when people insist on carrying all of it. Tyler stood near the new placard, still thinking about the empty space Sam had refused. Mr. Whitaker. Sam turned. Tyler hesitated before speaking. Why did you leave your own name out? Sam looked toward the photograph. Because those men could not come here and speak for themselves. But you were part of it too. I know. Tyler waited for more. Sam gave none. That answer finally made sense to him. Sam did not need a display to confirm where he had stood. His purpose had never been recognition. Walker reached into his pocket and removed a small folded card. Mercer gave me something years ago. Sam's expression changed. Walker opened the card. He wrote down advice whenever he thought I was becoming too impressed with rank. That must have kept him busy. Walker smiled. One line never made sense until today. He read it quietly. A compass is useful because it points somewhere other than itself. Sam looked away toward the flags moving above the courtyard. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then he said, William always liked making simple things sound expensive. Parker laughed softly. The tension that had surrounded the group earlier was gone. Tyler walked to the radio display and removed the incorrect information card. He replaced it with a temporary correction until the Heritage staff could print the permanent version. The younger sailor who had laughed at Sam helped him align it carefully. This time, neither man rushed. Sam watched from a distance. Walker noticed. Satisfied. Almost. What is missing? Sam nodded toward Tyler. Nothing. He is looking twice now. Walker understood. The correction that mattered most was not attached to the radio. Tyler returned and held out the old frequency card Sam had left on the table. Sir, you forgot this. Sam looked at the tiny penciled star through the cloudy sleeve. No, I brought it here for a reason. Tyler glanced toward Walker. You want it displayed? Not permanently. Sam placed the card beside the photograph. Just long enough for someone to ask what it means. And what should we tell them? Sam considered the question. Tell them it was a reminder that when everything starts moving, somebody has to stay steady. Tyler nodded slowly. Sam closed the metal box and tucked it beneath his arm. As he started toward the visitor lot, the younger sailors moved aside without being told. Tyler stepped forward and opened the gate for him. Sam paused. Grant. Yes, sir. Sam glanced back at the crowded Heritage display. Next time an old man tells you your radio is wrong, check the mounting holes first. Tyler smiled. I will remember that. Sam walked into the late afternoon light. Behind him, Tyler turned toward the display as a young visitor pointed at the frequency card and asked about the little star. Tyler looked down at it, then toward the old veteran disappearing beyond the gate. This time, before answering, he made sure he understood the story.